recording. So to all the participants, once again, thank you for your participation and for your time. And for Professor Wang, thank you very much for being part of this initiative, for supporting us. Professor Wang comes from Amsterdam University of Applied Science, that is an ally of our School of Management. So we're very happy to work together. Professor Wang, you can start whenever you want.
Yeah, great. I'm also very happy to be here. Uh, so let me share my screen. Share this. And since we are with a relatively small group, so we can make it interactive. If you have any questions or any comments, feel free to stop me anytime. There are a few people I don't know, like Kim, Carla, Alvaro, Cesar, Angelica. Feel free to just interrupt me if you have any questions. So today I will talk about sustainable innovation and technology management. So in this topic, it's already a mouthful. There are 4 very large words in it. So I have marked them in different colors. Sustainable in green, innovation in red, technology in blue, and management in yellow. Are you familiar with these colors representing the personalities?
Team? Not really.
No? Yeah, we have a HR students here. Team, do you mind introduce us about what these colors mean?
Well, from my limited experience so far, I generally see these in sort of the personality assessment type things. So mostly related to I think DISC is one of the more well-knowns.
Yeah, indeed. So if you are marked as the color red, that means you're more passionate, more innovative, and more daring to go on adventures. So that's why I marked innovation in red. And if you are more calm and peaceful and just want to observe, be a little bit passive but relaxed, then you are probably a green type. So sustainability is for those kind of people. And technology is very logic-oriented, very hardcore science, and a lot of nerds coming from that field, and those are marked in blue. And the management is should be a very inclusive occupation. But for doing that, we need to play safe, secure. That's the color yellow. So you can see all those colors mixing together. That's already creating problems. That if you care about sustainability, probably technology is on the other end of the spectrum that you will not look at. And when you talk about sustainability, probably it's more about the environment, the oceans, the mountain, iceberg, rather than technology. What technology can do for sustainability. So in this lecture, we will explore the perspectives that we need to include while managing in a world with emerging innovation technologies and also fundamental concerns of economic and environmental sustainability. If you are interested in knowing more about those colors of personalities, here is a book recommendation called Surrounded by Idiots. The idea is that if you master all those different kinds of people, then you can deal with them accordingly. That's outside of our topic today, but very interesting read for you. So let's zoom in to see how we can approach this. We will first zoom into different topics, the 3 parts: sustainability, INT, and management. Then we try to merge them together with different scenarios, different case studies to see what that's for us to reflect as future entrepreneurs and future managers. First of all, sustainability, very well-known sustainable development goals, SDGs, around 200 countries, that's almost all over the world, care about sustainability and sign up on the Paris Green Deal. And how to measure sustainability, there are two measurements I recommend. One is called triple bottom line, and the other is called ESG. I will introduce them one by one. This graph probably familiar to you. Many schools print it out and put it on their whiteboards or in the exhibition, because that's our central goal as the entity of human being, that we aim on a sustainable future. And these are 17 goals the United Nations draft up for us to provide a guidance for us. So I listed a few here, like goal number 8, number 9, number 11, and number 12. Those are quite straightforward. Innovation and technology can help to improve, for example, the work conditions to be safer in the production floors. If there is a robot carry out dangerous work rather than a person. And also industry innovation infrastructure. If you look at Alibaba, by the way, I will have a lot of Chinese examples if you don't mind. If you look at the warehouse of Alibaba, there are plenty of robots running the packaging, managing the warehouse rather than people. Then this whole industry improves the efficiency, and in the end, it probably saves money and time for the end consumers. Goal 11, sustainable cities and communities. That has something to do with smart cities, with millions of sensors that we will cover later. Responsible consumption production. That's probably what you are more familiar with when we talk about sustainability. Don't waste your food. Don't waste plastic. Bring your own bag. These kind of things are very close to us and probably can also be helped with innovation and technology. Triple bottom line. This is an evaluation of how the sustainability of a business, whether it's good or not, but in the field of accounting. So in the balance sheet, or normally, look, we have two audiences with one camera, that's nice. Normally, when you have a profit and loss account, then you only have the income as the last line, the bottom line. There was only one profit. The profit can be red, that means you make a loss, can be green, that means you make a profit. But that's not the only way to measure the total economic and social impact of a business. What if you pollute the river next door and it's end up for the local government to spend money to clean up your mess? And then we added two more, that's called people and planet. So if we talk about the evaluation of sustainability, we also need to make sure our people are safe, they can work healthily, sustainably for a very long term, and also our planet, that they can have the induration of all those rubbish coming into it and can resolve them before it's getting overloaded. So here is the equation. So before it was only the internalized earnings was counted. Now we also need to look at the external benefits and costs. Another measurement too is called ESG. It's very, yeah, it's more or less in line with the triple bottom line. You can see the environmental part is about planet, and the social and governance part are about people, and the profit part is goes without saying because the business will not let that part go. So ESG is more or less in line with it, but formulated in a different way. So it's structured as environmental, social, and governance. Instead of looking at the accounting, that's the aftermath of your business. So after everything happens, let's have a look what's going on. Yeah, after all the transactions have been done. But the ESG is from the field of investing. So before you even start a business, if you want to have a loan from a bank like ABN AMRO Bank, that's a Dutch bank, that's a team and I worked for, that they evaluate you not only from profitability, but also from environmental impact and social impact to see what good do you do for the society. You can have a nice story about fintech, about technology, that's change the world, have a new Facebook, the next Facebook or the next Snapchat for any sake. But if you are not environmental friendly, you will not get a loan from the bank. So that includes many more elements. For example, work conditions. Do you make your, do you use child labors, for example? Do you make your laborers work overtime? Do you provide enough growth and training opportunities for your employees? And how do you protect your data? So these are all the intersection of business and society that we look at with this model. So that's the two measurements to support the SDGs in the field of sustainability. Any questions so far? We covered one topic. No? Let's move on to innovation and technology. So that's our main focus today. We first need to understand what's on the market, what's out there, to be able to understand maybe we should take certain approach to manage it. So today we will look at Industry 4.0, what that is, what's that term Intel, and also the emerging technologies goes around it. In the end, we will see, look fast forward to the future, maybe in 10 years, 20 years, we will have smart environment. And how does that look like? First of all, Industry 4.0, that you might have heard of it, and you will hear about it in the coming years continuously. If not Industry 4.0, there will be Education 4.0, Knowledge Management 4.0. Yeah, there are many other terms evolved from the Industry 4.0. But the first time when I look at this term, I was thinking, oh, that's nice, that's interesting, but how about Industry 3.0? When was that? I don't remember learning Industry 3.0 and suddenly here is Industry 4.0. Oh, I see more people are coming. Welcome, nice to have you here. We're talking about Industry 4.0, and to understand that we need to go back and see where did that start. So in 1784, it's concerned to use the machine, to use a simple leverage to pick up things. That's the Industry 1.0, that we can actually use tools to make our production process more efficient and less time consuming or energy consuming. And in the Industry 2.0, we have mass production. That sounds like what you may find it now in China still, but it's originated already from more than 100 years ago, 130 years ago, mass production assembly lines was very human intensive, that everyone needs to be busy, that's step by step. And industry 3.0, that's not so far ago, but many countries are still in the process of making their production line automated, that have less injury, to have fewer people working online. So it's still, many countries are improving that part. And yet we are now in the context of Industry 4.0. We not only have all of everything before, but we have this connectivity of many new technologies. For example, 3D printing. Can you imagine if you can print out your sofa or your bench or your table at home, and you just need to buy raw material and program it, design it the way you want, and you have it next to you? How many jobs will that just make the jobs lost? But that's just a crazy idea based on what we see now and what could happen later. But no one knows if the history will go one way or the other. What we do know is that all these parts, big data, augmented reality, autonomous robots, Internet of Things, simulation, they can help us to increase our quality of life significantly. Later, I will go to several topics one by one. As you can imagine, we cannot cover it all. I just want to provide you a few ideas with this direction in mind. So let's zoom into the first technology called AI, artificial intelligence. I'm actually lying here. This is not a technology, it's a whole field of technologies. So it's a sub-branch of computer science. And within that, you can see natural language processing, machine learning, and within machine learning, you probably heard of deep learning, that's robotics. Those are quite complicated. Sometimes works hand in hand with one another. Sometimes it's just one standing alone that's going very deep. And when someone talk about AI, then you probably want them to clarify, what about AI are you referring to? Are you referring to interpreting languages, or are you referring to making connections of different databases and try to run a certain algorithm automatically? Or you are trying to sense your environment and see, oh, here is a dangerous item, let's pick it up and put it somewhere else. And that's also AI, but it's nothing to do with languages. So AI is not a new field. It can be traced back all the way to 1956. That's the first time they actually research on it. But if you count on how AI is implemented in real life, it can be even a few hundred years back, because AI, artificial intelligence, or just simply called fake intelligence, is just to do something that we don't want to do, and we make something that can fill that part and make that work, and doesn't require any intelligence from our part, and that makes that one has artificial intelligence. Is that true? It's probably even easier than that, because all the field of the AI is based on this one simple statement: if then. If A happens, then B. And if that if then comes up with many, many times, then we have so-called neural networks. So quickly it will become if A then B, and if B fails then C, D, E, F, G. And within each of these scenarios, it could evolve hundreds more. And then when it's calculated so fast and gives your results so rapidly, so accurately, you will think, wow, this is intelligence. But actually, it's just many times if-then statement. Let's look at robotics. That's also a very trendy word. But when we talk about robotics, maybe this is the one you will have in mind, or it's something else, or we are using this right now that's virtually that we cannot see, that's running the programs that can be also concerned as a robotic, like a chatbot. Chatbot is, for example, you go to a website and you want to return the things you bought that's not well packaged, and then you chat with the customer service. Turns out it's a robot, but that's not a robot that we have here. So it can be physical or virtual. And how it works, it looks complicated, but let me quickly tell you what's in it. So this robot looks like a human. It has to look like a human because otherwise, yeah, it doesn't give the idea of robots. If it looks like a pig, then you will call it fake pig, not a robot. What we have here is a giant battery. So here, these parts, we have a huge, maybe this way you see the pointer. Here we have a giant battery to support the energy. And on these parts, either there are sensors, just like how your robot vacuum works. So there's sensors to see whether we have road above, or is there a cliff, or there's something blocking it, and then we can try to not to run into it. So a bunch of sensors, or it can be railways that attached in the ground, so that basically works like a tram or metro, that the robot goes only along with those rails. So we now here sensors, here battery. Here, because it's working in a restaurant, we need two trays. That's nothing intelligent or innovative about that. And we have a pad here to give the interface. So in case you want to type in something, in case you want to control the robots, then you can do it here. But it's also nothing new. We all have pads in our pockets, and now stick to your chest. That doesn't make you a robot. So that's also nothing new. And here we have an artificial head, and with again sensors to look on different levels, and also probably some LED lights that makes a smiling face or any other face, but that's also not difficult. So we have these whole parts, but you put them together, bam, we have a robot. So that's the difference between technology and innovation. So the technology, we all know there are just so many and they developed not so fast. But if we combine them in a way that fits in the scenario of the restaurant, that does a certain job like serving foods, taking orders, then we consider we have a robot. And on a more sophisticated level, we have this company called Boston Dynamics. If you search for these words on YouTube, you will find a lot of demonstrations with each generation of its robots. So indeed, it's great work. It's cutting edges, but let's take it break it down, we will only find a bunch of sensors, very fast moving, very accurate sensors, and all those machinery are not difficult to make. So in the end, on top of this hype, what we have now is basically an emergence of different technologies in a way that we haven't seen before. But if we talk it through, it's not really rocket science. It's not very revolutionary, but it depends how we use it. Now we can use it for restaurant. How about a different scenario? How about teaching? And then we got panic. Oh, how about my job? Yeah, then it becomes a societal issue that we start talking about the implications of these technologies. But if you trace back, it's not so difficult. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The next one, I think many youngsters are interested in, blockchain. Blockchain is introduced by Satoshi Nakamoto. It's a fake name, could be a person, could be a group of people, we don't know. The first white paper was issued in 2008. The idea is that we can have a public ledger that keep control of all the transactions, and it is deemed to be revolutionary in finance. So nowadays, you know how a bank works. If you deposit 100 euros, then the bank can give it out as a mortgage or loan to someone else. And then if someone else apply for the mortgage, the bank can do that too with the same amount of money. But that money didn't increase, but the usage of money becomes multiple. So that's called double spending. But within this blockchain technology and also the ether of the cryptocurrency goes with it, then we solve the double spending problem, because once you make a transaction, that one is locked and it's updated to the whole network. Everyone knows that money is spent. And only when that money is spent again, then the blockchain will update again. But you cannot double spend the same amount of Bitcoin, for example. Yeah, in case you are interested in how it works, I'll quickly run it to you. So it builds by blocks, and it links with one another. That's why it's called blockchain. And within that, the last hash of the previous block is linked to the first hash of the next block. That makes it hooked together. Then you cannot change one block without changing another. That means all the transactions will be published, just for everyone. But that's also quite energy consuming. That's the sustainability part of this kind of technology. That's the idea. Later, we will try to group them together. Blockchain is a very useful technology, and many scholars predict blockchain to be here to stay, to be used on many different things like smart contracts. So not only to keep track of money, but also keep track of agreements. So if we agreed on certain conditions that it's, if we're gonna update anything, the whole chain will update. Then the smart contract becomes very transparent, real-time, reflective, and you can also amend it when everyone sees it. Another innovation from this technology is cryptocurrencies. Well, there are a whole list of cryptocurrencies, starting with Bitcoins, and we have Litecoin, we have so many, Zcash, yes. But now only Bitcoin is still on the news, and look at this. This is a screenshot I made today. And this number is the highest number we have ever seen in the history of Bitcoin. That's today. And each and every day, each and every hour, you will see a new number that's still rising. And for this part, I totally agree with Warren Buffett that Bitcoin is based on nothing. There's no value to it. Unlike stock market, if you buy a stock, even though that's also irrational, that many people can try to make it boost or make it drop down overnight, but that's at least based on a company, and that company has accounting and has finance that can show you some assets and debt. And Bitcoin is based on thin air. It's based on the ideology that this cryptocurrency is safe. Then people start trading on this, then build on it. If you are willing to buy it with €1, I want to buy it with 2, then 3, and now we have 15,000 euros. Warren Buffett said, they don't produce anything. You cannot do anything with it except sell it to somebody else. However, the world is full of the population, can boost it up. We all know it's a bubble, but we all know there's another person gonna buy it. So in theory, it doesn't work. In practice, it works. Then I'm totally against you buying Bitcoin, so do not consider this as a promotion for Bitcoin, but you should be aware of this, because we desperately need a certain technology that preventing banks and current financial systems to double spend and to exploit our hard work. Then we end up with another drama like Bitcoin. But for the technology itself, it's not really a technology, but a technique. So the programming language is already there. The financial system is already there. It's just never there was someone tried to code in this way before. So in theory, it's a technique, not a technology. Okay, let's zoom into another one, probably the last one, probably not, called IoT, Internet of Things. We all use internet, and we grew up with internet. We know very well what internet means, but what does IoT mean? Still yet to be explored. So your phone nowadays can be connected to the light bulb, can be connected to the temperature control, can be connected to your car. Now that's a form of Internet of Things with one portal. How about it's interconnected? Then what can they do? We know that if we have a sensor in the trash bin, then probably we can plan the truck to pick up the trash all over the city in a more efficient way, skip those ones that's not yet filled or can wait a little bit longer. So in a way, we save time. In another way, we save energy from the trucks. So that's there are many ways to implement this, and we don't have an industry standard at the moment. So that's why I'm saying this is a battlefield of companies and even countries. If you look at Huawei, how the 5G technology becomes so controversial, you will know it's probably not about the company, probably not even about the technology, but who owns the infrastructure that later on could build a smart city around it. And if all those data of your trash bin, of your internet, of your warehouse, of your electricity supply, with your water supply, all those information has to go through a small cell tower or a telecommunications infrastructure. You want that to be Ericsson, you want that to be Nokia, but probably not a company from China. That's a battlefield nowadays. And with that, you probably can sense there are some opportunities for you as very young, energetic entrepreneurs. That's probably the way to go. And we don't know how to judge the Internet of Things. We do know how to judge the Internet. The inventor of the World Wide Web, called Sir Berners-Lee, a British scientist, invented the World Wide Web also not as the technology itself, but as an innovation to build a way to combine all those databases that you can quickly search up for it. And 3 years ago, he was in Amsterdam to give a lecture after he won the Turing Award. It's like a Nobel Prize in the field of computer science. But he was frustrated, he was devastated, because he sees how the World Wide Web is used for criminal activities, for human trafficking, for pornography. That's actually a very large amount of percentage of the World Wide Web nowadays. So he commented, well, the problems facing the web are complex and large, which he cannot stop anymore. I think we should see them as bugs, problems with existing code and software systems that have been created by people and can be fixed by people. So that's also one of my central points to deliver today, is that it's not the technology which can be problematic, but the people, how to use it, whether to use it for good, then it makes a whole difference. Yeah, indeed, the IoT is the last technology I want to discuss, and that's the foundation for smart home and also the foundation for smart city. For smart home, you probably already using the Google Assistant or Alexa, and in China, so we have also different kinds of virtual assistants produced by Huawei, by Baidu, by Xiaomi. Those are all different brands. But in the Western world, or it's more Alexa, Google, and what's another one? Siri. Yeah, then everything is connected, including your ventilator, washing machine, home security, air conditioning, maybe your door, maybe your Wi-Fi, your fridge, your oven. A lot of things can be smart. We're not talking about the future, we're talking about now. Just buy it, implement it in your home, and then you have a smart home. And these kind of curtains, if I want, I can also just use my phone to lift it up. It's just a matter of buying it and install it nowadays. But smart city is the longer way to go. As you can probably imagine from the scale and also the complexity of different facilities, the requirement of a stadium is different than the public park. It's different than the supermarket, and it's different than the train, for example. So this is a huge industry. We call it blue sea, right? It's still a blue sea, starting to getting red, but if we zoom out, looking at the history, it probably still take quite a few years, up to 10 years. That's still quite a lot of things can happen there, and the industry standards can be developed during that time. So we covered the innovation and technology part so far. Any questions? No, I see we have 28 people here now. I'm very happy to see the growth.
So far, so good. Thank you, Zijian.
Yeah, thank you, Cesar. Yeah, actually, the delay is much longer than what I would expect in China. So here is the cultural difference. Yeah, it's interesting. So next time I'll make sure I show up half hour later, then probably I'll be right on time. So we talk about sustainability, innovation, technology, and then the last one is management. And for management part, I only have one slide, because even if we give them different terms, for example, here we have digital transformation, that you can transform your marketing to social media marketing, to online marketing, to digital marketing, whatever you want to call it. You can transform your analysis with big data, hiring data scientists, implement SAP or Oracle, crunching data, ensure data quality, clean your data, decrease data redundancy. There are a lot of fancy terms around it, but after all, it's still analysis. And the leadership also need to be transformed, the strategy need to be transformed, and it's all under the digital transformation. But after you calculated all those parts, that if we're gonna transform these, that, and then what's left? Almost nothing. Then why don't we call the digital transformation business transformation? Because nowadays that's a requirement for you to totally transform your business, to bring it to online, to bring it to more technologies, bring sensors into it, bring those robots into it. So it's a whole different scenario. You're creating new businesses. And change management, that's also another buzzword that means almost nothing, because if nothing changes, why should you manage it? You just leave it be. Yeah, there's no change, so we don't need to manage it. So overall, all these three terms, that's what I mean by management. So that field is clear. We also identified some key innovations and technologies, and we also understood how the sustainability expect us to do. Now, we look at some problematic scenarios. For example, jobs. I'll give you a few seconds when I enjoy my tea to look at this slide. So we have here some quotes from accredited sources like Forbes, PwC, McKinsey. These are all top-notch consultancies. So what they say must be true. And this is a form I copied from the PwC report that's focused on the AI impact on jobs. So in the UK, so that's the figures here. In the UK, AI will create, not making jobs disappear, but create over 7.2 million jobs over the next 2 decades. And 7.2 million jobs is here, it's this one. Total jobs with thousands, creation 7,176, but add the thousands, that's 7.2 million. That's the creation. But the point here is this creation is not adding to the workforce, but to replace very large amount of the workforce. So we need different skills and more jobs, but those jobs require different skill sets. So the net effect will be also increasing, but not as much, but at least for sure, it can compensate the jobs lost. So what we're gonna focus on is not to worry about, hey, what we do after graduation. Are we enter a market that's full of robots and automation that we don't have any opportunities? But instead, you need to worry about your skills, whether the skill you learn now still relevant by the time you graduate in 3 years, 4 years, and try to go on with this creation column, not the other ones. So let's look at what Forbes have to say. The panic based on the notion of artificial intelligence is taking away all of our jobs might be, well, artificial. So that part is not true. Forbes doesn't agree with that. And also confirmed by McKinsey, 77% of the companies expect no net change. So not no change, but no net change. So there will not be dramatic number of losses or gains in the industry, but there will be different jobs that you need to adopt automation and AI technologies. So if we zoom in to these specific sectors, we will find out the healthcare sector and the wholesale and retail sector. Those are a lot of jobs generated in demand, especially after COVID. It's accelerated for healthcare. And overall, warehouse management is tightly related to innovation and technology. So you need to manage the warehouse and production in a new way. So these two are quite significant, and this one also quite large. So lawyers, accountants, especially with those rule-based jobs. For example, we have certain rules. Say, if you receive an invoice coming from a certain supplier that belongs to which category, and then you register either expenses or income in that account. That can be done by robots. That can be done by automation. So that's probably what the professional services includes. But overall, the message for you is, do not worry about jobs, worry about your skills. And it always depends on the scenario. For example, if you ask a Chinese district, why do you need a team of 30 security people to guard your for example, 3 buildings? Why do you need those many security guards? Why don't you implement a complicated, complex surveillance system that connect to the police station, as we do it now here in the Netherlands? In the night, we will just put on all those sensors. If anyone walks around the building, then the alarm will go off and police will come by. Why don't we do that for China? And the answer would be, hey, calculate the prices, hiring those people actually much cheaper, and they can even sleep in the building, and that's what they concern, more effective and even cheaper. So it's always context-based, not that the technology is there, we have to use it, and then this effect, that effect will happen. But if someone jumps in and say, hey, technology is good, but it doesn't make sense for us, that's not to use it, then end of story. We don't have all those effects afterwards. So that's jobs. Let's look at another problem.
Zijian,
Yes.
maybe ask you a question?
Yeah, sure, team. I guess from the jobs slide.
Yeah. Wait, let me turn on my camera as well. So do you think those newly created jobs require more complex skill set in general?
Not necessarily complex, I would say, but different. So look at what I learned in my high school. There was only one course about information technology that teach me how to use PowerPoint and Excel. But now you probably need to learn logic, algorithm, programming, at least with Python or JavaScript to draw a few circles and logos. Then that's something else, but not necessarily harder, but very different.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's my take on this. We as educators, we need to change, and we need to change fast. So unfortunately, the job market still require a diploma, a certificate to show that you are capable of certain thing, or you are certified by what institution teach. But sooner or later, they will realize that what we teach here is probably what they need on the work floor. And then, yeah, should we still be here or not? Privacy, that's the second topic that's a bit challenging. In the Netherlands, in Europe, overall, we are very concerned about our privacy, that, yeah, your grades should not be public, should not even be discussed. Your salary, no one tells me how much that they earn. But I know very common back then, back at home, that's the first question. The first question is, how are you doing? The second question is how much money you make per month. Yeah, I don't know what's the situation in Colombia, but I guess we have quite similar culture. Valeria, how much do you earn? Do you want to tell me? But do you recognize
with the exchange rate we have here in Colombia for you would be almost nothing.
No. Yeah, it depends on
Professor
what you
Wang,
see.
before continuing,
Yeah.
Andres, that is the director of the laboratories, have a question. So he wanted to do it. He can't do it because he doesn't have a really good connection. But if you may, I can do it for him.
Yeah, sure.
So this is the question. What do you think about the social impact of technological implementation? I know that in many cases it helps in medicine security, but I believe that this is fine in developed countries, while in developing countries, it can generate enormous labor and social problems because it can increase the social and economic distance between people who have access and resources to this modernity. But it can create a hopelessness in people who are below those possibilities. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, thank you very much, Valeria. And thanks for the question, Andres. So indeed, it's one of the sustainable development goals that we should all have access to information communication technologies. And for now, 85% of the world population is covered by radio signals, at least if not internet. And if by population, it's around 95%. That's already a huge improvement, but that's only the coverage. But if you can afford a laptop or if you can afford a smartphone, it's a whole nother story. Indeed, in that way, some group of people grow up with technologies. They are very well prepared for the industry 4.0 21st century work, but some people lagging more and more behind because they do not have access to these technologies. So that's also a part that we should be concerned that if we have a nice business or a certain degree of influence in a company or in a social initiative, we need to go to those unfortunate areas to help to see if we can contribute something. But for now, it's the equity is quite a problem. So we could talk about equality, but even though the signal is everywhere, but the equity is a second step we should look at. Hopefully answers your question, and Liz, if not, please ask a follow-up in the chat. So we're gonna continue with privacy. We are so concerned about our privacy, so we introduced this law a couple years back called GDPR. If we mention GDPR in Europe, everyone knows, but in case it's not well known, I wrote the whole name here, General Data Protection Regulation. That's not only protect the end users, but also employees, also suppliers. As long as it's your personal data, you should have the right to give consent or withdraw your consent at any time, and also retrieve the log of all the activities has been done with your data. That creates some follow-up issues. So for example, privacy by design. That means if you're gonna make something now, design something now, then you will have the GDPR in mind and you will start developing with the GDPR compliant model. But what if you have already started, but not as resourceful as Facebook, not resourceful as Google, then this is the extra burden that you have to develop to make sure that you are compliant with the privacy requirement, when you know this won't make you any money and probably even cost you money because it's very difficult to develop such system that's so robust that the whole list of 70, 80 articles of GDPR are compliant. And if there is a loophole and you got caught, it can you can face a fine of either 4% of your income or 100. Is that true? Or 1 million if you got caught, whichever is higher. So if the 4% of income is higher, you pay that. But for small and medium businesses, it's quite a burden to be compliant. But on the other hand, this one of the theories in privacy studies is that if you haven't done anything wrong, you should not worry about your privacy. So that's what China believes and what Chinese believes. That also creates a lot of discussion here in Europe that says, oh, they actually have all these cameras. They actually keep track of your social credibility scores. And most recently, they even introduced the digital currency. So that means every penny you spend, they know where you spend on. You don't want to go to somewhere and buy a heavy alcohol or something that you know you are underage and be tracked with your money. It's already so bad that you can be tracked with your phone or cameras, and now every penny you spend can be associated with a transaction that if it can backfire, could be in years. That's still in the record. But what the Chinese think about this is that no problem, it's for the greater good, that if everyone is compliant, we have a better society. If everyone is on the streets and being watched, we can find those murderers. We can find those criminals easily. You have nowhere to hide because even the software itself is called Skynet. It's a net as large as the sky. Unless you hide in the mountains, that you will be found. So it's total two ends of the spectrum that they approach privacy so differently. One, the European model, they use technologies to put layer and layer and layer to protect the privacy, and on the other hand, to scrap layer and layer to see whether if you have done anything wrong or not. So for privacy, it's still an ongoing discussion, but we can already see with digital currency, the European countries are lagging behind at the moment because we like talking about it now. So we like to talk about issues, we need to understand what does it mean, who agrees, let's vote, and then let's vote again because it's no consensus, the difference is too large, let's debate, and time is not waiting for you. And what China sees, when China sees blockchain, oh, blockchain, interesting, what's that about? Oh, about money, and that money can be traced, and that money is secure. How about we own the we own the infrastructure of the money, then we are in the total control. Here goes the digital currency. And when will the digital currency to be introduced as a formal way of transaction in anywhere else in the world? That's questionable. So that's the second issue. The third issue I want to present today is called data science. Data science, you notice that here I put those quotation marks around science because I want to give you this list of questions. Starting with asking, is data science really scientific? Is that really science? What is data science? So it's a few years ago, starting from 2006, there was a term called big data, and then AI, and then the data science. But what's scientific about data? So here are a list of ways to line with statistics. That's already published half century ago. Yeah, I'll read you a few. There are three kinds of lines, damped lines, and statistics. It ends so much saying that we don't know that gets us in trouble. It's the things we know that aren't so. Misinterpreted the scenario. I have a great subject, which is statistics, to write upon, but feel keenly my literary incapability to make it easily intelligible without sacrificing accuracy and thoroughness. Even someone talking about statistics knows that he cannot explain statistics without being false with statistics. Then you want to know, in what context should I trust the machine? Maybe when you are end up in the bed of a hospital, you want to trust the machine to give you indications. Now you need oxygen. In that sense, fine. Yeah, maybe there are 5% chance that I don't need oxygen, but I'll trust you to save my life. But not always that we need a data scientist in-house to make interpretations of our data. For example, when do we sell a lot of beers in the supermarket? Everyone works in the supermarket will tell you that Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. And you can run an algorithm and asking why, and then you find out there's a thing called weekend. Does it say something? No. But is that science? Also no. But there are many things we replace it with database that we need to critically question whether it's necessary, whether it's even true or not. But why I bring up this topic here is that the more you calculate, not only mention the jobs that the money need to spend on those people who call themselves data scientists, but only the databases themselves. You need to maintain those databases, and before it was in the basement of a company and now it's probably on the cloud. You need to have a lot of energy, a lot of electricity to compute those results. And that's the angle you probably won't think of when we talk about sustainability. That's a term in IT called green IT, or responsible computing. So if we can identify those that we don't need so much data, and those conclusions we can make by observation, by surveys, by asking around, then we probably also save energy and save a lot of trouble. Any questions so far? No? Okay, let me conclude again with these colors. Let me conclude with the takeaways I intend to give to you in case you got lost with all those lists of technologies and scenarios. First, managing in the context of Industry 4.0 require a holistic assessment of the true costs of a business, not only for profit and not only about icebergs, but the holistic overview that you need to concern about people, about your money, about your relationship with your employees and your suppliers. These you need to take care of the holistic picture instead of only looking at the money. Second, managing innovation and technology is not about the innovation and technology themselves. Those are already static, so you cannot change the technology so easily, so fast. But the way we use it, the way we source it, the way we put them together, it's around the people. So make sure to manage the technology, but also don't forget the people around it. And if you feel frustrated, feel confused with all those inputs from the industry, from people around, just do something. There must be something you will regret later on if you go for digital currency, if you go for GDPR, if you go for anything else, but you have to do it to find out. We cannot have it all, but my message here is don't wait. The opportunity comes, as you can see, industry 3.0, 2.0 comes every century, and it's not wise to waste it. Thank you very much. I will go to the Q&A session, and if you are interested to be connected with me, I don't mind to have a few more Colombian friends on my LinkedIn. So let's keep in touch. Any questions? Now I'm reading the chat. All right.
I think
miss
we don't
anything?
have any questions.
All right.
I have a sort of personal question on the whole. So you mentioned that in China they're way quicker to adopt technologies such as facial recognition, for instance. You being from China, actually, how do you feel about that? Do you feel more positively towards a situation where privacy is held to a higher standard, or do you think that such technologies could actually be used for good and solely for good?
Yeah. Thank you very much, team. Very good question. I already shared the general feeling of the Chinese public. My personal opinion on this is that each society has a way to run itself. And if the people of China are happy, who are we to point directions for them? But of course, me being in the Netherlands for a reason, so maybe I enjoy the life here a little bit better. But if I someday will go back, I have no trouble to adapt to the social norms in China. It's just not a simple discussion to prefer one way or another. It's a whole society expects you to behave one way or another.
Yeah, very insightful. And maybe as an extension, do you think that, for instance, Europe could benefit from a more broader scale adoption of such technologies then?
Yes, I think you can, and I think there are many initiatives trying to go this way. For example, the Netherlands issued this app that asks people to download, so you can see whether you have interacted with someone got corona. But that's voluntary. That you can download it or not, and if you download it, it's likely that you probably feel comfortable to share this information. Probably you feel healthy, but it won't work to the same extent as China did. When China did it, it's not the government, even though we are under the impression the government is quite authoritarian. It's not the government to push the app through, but every time you go to a certain building, you have to show that app to see whether your code of the status of corona is green, yellow, or red. So if you go around and find out there's no building for you to enter, then you will download it for yourself for your convenience. But we can learn, we can copy, but it will not reach the same effect.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Professor Wang, thank you very much for your conference and for sharing this wonderful knowledge. By the way, I'm also teacher of the GSB faculty at the Universidad del Rosario. And part of the things that you mentioned today is actually things that I teach to my students, especially in the Master for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. So more particularly, exponential technologies and growth hacking as well. So having said that, well, I'm pretty much familiar with the things you mentioned today, and they are brilliantly shared and exposed. Thank you for that. Kudos to
Thank you
that
very much.
for sure. Um, and I was wondering regarding probably something what we didn't deepen today, which is sustainable energies, and probably they're going to play not only a major role in our future regarding sustainability, but also in a more political, broader sense, especially if you realize the role of oil production and the involvement in politics and economy overall today
Mhm.
compared where everything goes, which is sustainable energies, electric, solar, etc.
Mhm.
Where do you think China is currently moving towards? I'm pretty aware that definitely electric and solar are definitely one of the largest by far strengths of China currently. But I'm not sure whether there is any I don't know state policy regarding that regarding China, because to us it's so far away that it's
Mhm.
also always very interesting to have somebody from this part of the world sharing with us.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much for your question, and very nice to have you here. I think it's yeah. For China, they are very committed to the Paris Agreement, and they admitted that the pollution will continue, but will peak in the year of 2030. They have already tried to have some initiatives, for example, refuse to import rubbish anymore because we were remaking a lot of things from the waste of other countries. And also we start to separate the trash into different categories and try to reuse them better. But for the energy, uh, even though electricity, electronic cars, that sounds quite green, and in fact, China has 40% of the total electronic cars in the world, and we have a brand called BYD. It's aimed for middle and lower class of electronic cars. And then the Tesla also built a factory in Shanghai. So that's industry also booming. Also the solar panels, because the solar panels was heavily compensated by the European Union, and a lot of Chinese companies established their solar panel companies here in Europe, produce in China and resell to European countries, and sometimes also in their domestic market. But my question here, I don't know the answer. My question here is that what do they do with the batteries and charging points and solar panels afterwards? That's a sustainable question that we don't have an answer yet. And they say it's for later to concern, but it's actually very polluting. It's like a huge battery that will be wasted later. Now, what do you think on this?
I agree. Actually, that's kind of the same problem of egg and chicken problem regarding oil. Like, oil is polluting. Let's think afterwards regarding that. But now we need to solve this energy problem. So probably we're falling into the same type of pattern. It's probably all human nature as well. But yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely need to think about it in advance. I agree.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
exactly. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. When I remember when I was in China, the mainstream argument for Western countries is that it's good for you that you developed through colonization, through the capitalist approach, through World War II for United States, that you are prosperous for the past years. But now we are not colonizing anyone. We just try to put in hard work and make our country a little bit better. And now you're talking about sustainability.
Totally agree. I agree on that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, great. So Valeria, do we have more questions or should we
Yes.
conclude? Yeah.
Professor
more
Wang, I think we don't have any more questions. So,
Okay.
well, once again, for the assistants, thank you for everyone for participating in these conferences. It was a pleasure for the School of Management to have you here, Professor Wang, and to have you all in this lecture. Very interesting. I hope we can see you more often in our university with different projects. And thank you once again for
Yeah.
being part of this and supporting us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me today. I wish you a nice day ahead.
Thank you very much, Professor Wang. Appreciate your knowledge and your great will. Thank you. We hope
Thanks.
to have you here someday soon.
Yeah, sure. I would be love to. Let's be connected on LinkedIn.
Absolutely, I will do that. I will do the proper from now on, for sure. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Take care. You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Gracias a todos. Chao.